Nor does Shah Rukh Khan thirst for the fruit of action. Where? In the movie. So Shah Rukh Khan, the actor, is immaculate. The actions of the movie have no bearing on him whatsoever, whether it is positive or negative. Nor does Shah Rukh Khan have any desire for the fruit of action in the movie, either as a villain or as a hero. Now let's come down to our own experience. Every one of us actually experiences what he's talking about. Right now we are all awake, right? I hope so. After a while, maybe in another half an hour, there may be one or two individuals who slip into another state of consciousness. You might slip into a dream. Or at night, tonight when you go to sleep, you might enter a dream. And in the dream, now in the waking state, you may be married. Today may be your wedding anniversary. You have just celebrated your anniversary and you've been married for say 20 years. You go to sleep and you dream that you are unmarried. Many people dream like this. And that you are about to get married and you go through the thrill of marriage and just there's so many guests who've come to your wedding and there's so much fanfare and so much celebration. And as you're going round the fire 7 times, the 6th time that you're going round the fire, where? In the dream. You trip and you fall. When you fall in the dream, what happens? You wake up. When you wake up, do you tell yourself, "Arey, if only I had woken up after the 7th time." What a gorgeous lady she was. No, you don't say that. You completely negate the dream because you understand it's an illusion. It has no connection with reality, which is your waking state. But now, having woken up, suppose you had the ability to get back into the same dream, which incidentally is not possible, we're just imagining. Okay? You get back into the dream with the knowledge of the waking state. How would you go about your actions in the dream? You would take the 7th para also, isn't it? You'd go through all, whatever you need to do in the dream, you'd go through the motions. But the actions will not smear you. You means you the waker. And nor will you thirst for the fruit of action in the dream. Right? That's what he's saying. Now what he's trying to present to us is the fact that whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or not, what they're trying to tell us is that this waking state of consciousness that you and I are going through, which appears so very real to us, is in reality no different from the dream that you have gone through and understood to be an illusion. Even if you don't accept this, the very thought is so powerful that it lends an element of objectivity to you. What is being objective? In life, the world presents all kinds of experiences, some positive, some negative, some tragic, some comic, some traumatic, some exciting. You can't help this. This is part of the world. As long as you are in the world, you will meet with these experiences. I myself in the last few days have experienced death very close to me. Have experienced exaltation, have experienced disappointment, have experienced exhilaration. Just in a few days you experience all this. if you don't have this basic sense of objectivity, it is impossible to live. Because with each change, every change that happens in the world, you are smashed. You are completely devastated. And that's what's happening to us, because we don't know, we don't have knowledge of this. We don't have this knowledge. Once you have the knowledge, it gives you a little breathing space. It gives you a little insurance. The Bhagavad Gita is a shock absorber. The knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita acts like a shock absorber. It absorbs the shock that comes to you from the world. It's like insulation. In life, it is impossible to live without insulation. Do you understand that? Thermal insulation. If you did not have insulation from heat, it would be impossible to cook food. Because then the same fire that cooks the food will cook your fingers. You have electrical insulation, which is why we enjoy the benefits of electricity. If you did not have electrical insulation, it would be impossible to use electricity for our welfare. Every time you contact electricity, you get electrocuted. When you contact the world, you must have this insulation, you must have these shock absorbers. And that is this knowledge. And that's what he's saying here. And that insulation is this knowledge. Now, what is it and how can you go about understanding it? Is a wonderful example is given of that of, you see this magnet? If you take an iron piece to a magnet, what happens? It is attracted by the magnet, it is affected by the magnet, it is influenced by the magnet. You can't do anything to prevent that. You take the iron away and you bring a piece of wood to the magnet. What happens? Nothing happens. The magnet does not have the power to influence the wood. Now, you take the wood, that's what is shown here in the picture. You take the iron and the wood and tie it together and bring the combination to the magnet. What happens? Sorry? It is attracted. The combination of the iron and the wood is attracted by the magnet, is influenced by the magnet, is affected by the magnet. But you know that even though the combination is affected by the magnet, the wooden piece in the combination remains immaculate, is unaffected. But it appears to be affected by the magnet. Why? Because it is tied to the iron. You and I are exactly like this combination. We are a combination of matter and spirit. Matter is like the iron, body, mind and intellect. Wood is the spirit in us, Atman, our real personality. So you and I are like the wooden piece. We are not like a piece of wood. We are not the piece of wood. We are like it. And the magnet is the world. The body, mind and intellect is matter, and the nature of the body, mind and intellect is that it will be affected by the world. You can't help that. But by the same token, the spirit in us, our real identity, is immaculate because the world does not have the power to influence spirit. It so much as even touched the spirit. But because we have unintelligently identified ourselves with the body, mind and intellect so deeply, so intensely, when the world affects the body, mind and intellect, you get affected exactly like this combination appears to get affected. But even when we are affected, the Atman, the spirit in us, remains immaculate. So the whole thing depends on Where is your attention? Where is your identification? If you identify with the body, mind and intellect, you will be affected by the world, you will get traumatized by the world. And that's what we are all going through. But at any stage, you shift your attention from body, mind and intellect to spirit, even temporarily. If you tell yourself, I am not the body, I am Atman, it gives you enormous relief. Try it. The next time you are experiencing pain, try this. It will give you relief. But what we are doing is just the opposite. When we go through pain, we further identify with it in such a way that instead of giving us less pain, the way we go about it, it gives us much greater pain. Not only do we have pain, then you talk about it, you think about it, you revel in that pain to such an extent that you get completely overcome with it. Stand apart from it. This option is available only to the human being. And if you exercise this option, you can go through life. You see, then you have the liberty, the freedom to function with the body, mind and intellect when it is convenient. When it is not convenient, you have the option of withdrawing into the realm of the spirit so that the turbulence in the world does not affect you. And when you live life like this, you live a life of exhilaration, of exuberance, of happiness, cheer, joy, mischief, like all the great masters have lived. Krishna is an embodiment of this. Right through his life, from birth till the last moment of his life, he went through all kinds of challenges, far worse than all our challenges put together. Yet, never for an instant was he heartbroken, never for a moment was he depressed, never was he low in spirit. Always full of life, full of cheer, full of enthusiasm. Where is that and where are we? One little challenge hits us and we go under, never to emerge. The beauty of the human being is that you can ride over challenges and emerge victorious. This is the very theme of the Bhagavad Gita. So how do we do this? You have the option of, forget identifying with the spirit, you have to go about it gradually. When you have identified with the body, you suffer the trials and tribulations that the body goes through. But at the moment you shift your attention from the body to the mind, and you are absorbed in an emotional, at the emotional realm, then what happens? You get completely liberated from the limitations of the body. So whatever is happening at the body does not affect you. For instance, the body experiences fatigue after a certain while. The body has its limitations. But say a sports person, the moment he identifies with the mind, suppose he wants to come up with a superlative performance for the sake of his coach or for the sake of his parents, then what happens? He seems to break through the limitations of the body. The body might feel tired, but the inspiration that he gets at the emotional level is so great, the identification in the mind is so great, that the challenges of the body do not affect him. He overrides it. You move still further to the intellectual plane. And when you have an intellectual ideal, like that of Lance Armstrong, you've heard of him? Yeah? He suffered cancer, he went through cancer, the cancer ravaged his body. His mind perhaps obviously went through grief and fear and all kinds of emotions. But he had an intellectual ideal and he focused on that intellectual ideal, and he then cycled. Not because he wanted to win a trophy or the award, but because he wanted to prove to cancer sufferers that cancer is not the end of life, it's just another phase of life, and that you can overcome it with the power of your mind and intellect. And he proved it, and he came up with what a wonderful performance. He won the Tour de France 6 consecutive times, a world record. For an ordinary person to achieve it itself is a formidable task. But for a person who suffered from cancer, to overcome the ravages of cancer and come up with this performance is outstanding. This is the intellect. What the Gita is speaking about is moving that one step higher, that one significant step higher to the realm of the spirit. And that, the Gita says, you can do here and now. Because the spirit is with you always. That God principle is with you always. So exercise that spirit, exercise that option. Then you find that you've identified with the spirit and you're functioning through the body, mind and intellect, you're acting. Then you find that actions don't smear you at all, nor do you have a thirst for the fruit of action. One who knows me thus is not fettered by action. What a brilliant verse this is. Verse 15. Evam jnatva krutam karma purvairapi mumokshubhihi kuru karmaiva tasmat tvam purvai purvataram krutam. This is another magnificent verse where he appeals to the heart. So all along so far in this chapter he has been giving chaste, pure logic that appeals to your head. And now he is appealing to the heart. The combination of the head and the heart is such that it helps you to get over your limitations, get over your faults, because spiritual awakening, spiritual development is a difficult task. Nobody said it was easy. But predominantly because what he's talking about is we completely blanked out to it. We have no idea of what he's talking about. So however much you struggle with the intellect, you still reach a blank. That's the stage where you need a little fillip, a little help at the emotional level, and then you're able to overcome that little, that obstacle. So what he's saying here is, knowing thus, evam jnatva, even the ancient seekers of moksha performed action. When he says ancient seekers of moksha, he is referring to the great sages and saints that inhabited this sacred land. Tasmat, therefore, you also perform action as the ancestors did in earlier times. So he's appealing to Arjuna's heart. He's appealing to our hearts. In advertising, they get famous personalities to endorse certain products. Why? There's no logic to it. So just because Amitabh Bachchan does something doesn't mean you have to do it. But it works. It works. Why? Because it gets you at the heart level. Similarly, he's saying the same thing. He says, the great sages and saints of this country, ancient seekers of moksha, performed action knowing this. Once they came to understand that action does not taint you, does not smear you, does not pollute or putrefy you, and that in fact actions are a method of purifying your system, such ancient masters performed action. In the world, according to Vedanta, there are only 2 reasons for you to perform action. One is Atmanaha mokshartham, to liberate yourself, to purify yourself. And the second, Jagat hitaya, for the benefit of humanity. There is no third reason. And all of us are performing action for any reason other than these 2. You are that self, you are Atman, you are immaculate. And the more you fall in line with Atman's attitude towards action, the more you identify with spirit, the world will not affect you. Then you become powerful. Power lies in not getting affected by the world. If you get affected by every little change that happens, it's like you go to a party or a wedding and somebody doesn't smile at you, you're down in the dumps. You invite somebody, the person does not come, you're down in the dumps. Why should you be affected by somebody? If You do your bit, invite someone. The person chooses not to come, you say, thank God. Why should you feel bad about it? So with this firm conviction, what firm conviction? That I must perform action for Atmanaha mokshartham, to purify myself. Whatever I do, I must never forget that the only thing that we are born in this world for is to liberate ourselves. And if you keep that in mind and perform actions, you're not interested in the action, you're not interested in the result of the action. You're only interested in your goal, which is self-purification, which happens anyway, if you're focused there. So, the concept is you need to perform action without involvement, without attachment, without wanting the fruit of the action, where you find fulfillment in the performance of the action itself. It is a beautiful concept, and the more you align yourself with it, the more you'll find that success comes to you, happiness comes to you, growth comes to you, and every moment of your life becomes exhilarating. So, just as the ancient seekers of liberation performed action, so must you also perform action. Like Krishna, Janaka, Rama, so many great sages and saints who reached the level of realization continued to perform action. So must we all. Verse 16. Kim karma kimakarmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshami Yajnatva mokshase shubhat. Sages are also deluded about what is action and what is inaction. Therefore, I will tell you what action is, knowing which you will be freed from evil. So now what he's saying is, he uses the word kavayaha. Kavi means literally seer, the wise. But in this context, when he uses the word kavayaha, he's not talking about self-realized people, he's talking about wise people, spiritually developed people who have fallen short of realization. He says, such people are also deluded about what is action and what is inaction, because it's very difficult to understand. What is action and what is inaction? The moment you understand action in its entirety, you automatically understand inaction. Inaction means Atman. When you understand inaction, you become that inactive principle. So in other words, what he's saying is, until you reach the state of realization, you really don't know what is action and inaction. You don't know the difference between Atman and the actions that are propelled by Atman. So he says, therefore, I will tell you what action is, knowing which you will be freed from evil. See, it's like this. Suppose there are blue and red marbles in a basket, and a person is colorblind, doesn't know blue. So what do you tell the person? You can't see blue. So segregate red, what remains is blue, correct? That's what he's saying here. He says, you don't understand inaction, which means Atman. Action you understand, at least you're seeing action. The moment you understand action in its entirety, automatically you understand what inaction is. So, karma and akarma. Now, there are two ways of looking at karma and akarma. From the relative standpoint, karma is desire-ridden activities. That desire may be selfish or unselfish, but as long as an action is propelled by a desire, it leads to further desires. So that is called karma. Akarma is selfless action. Selfless action is action directed towards the goal of self-realization. Since self-realization is beyond the realm of the world, with reference to the world you have no desires, therefore it is called desireless action. So this is from the relative standpoint. From the absolute standpoint, all actions, selfish, unselfish, selfless, belong to the realm of karma. And akarma is Atman. So in this verse he is talking about the absolute interpretation. Next verse, 17. Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chari karmanaha akarmanasya bodhavyam gaha